Alright, 3Gs guys. Well, last video about the brake upgrade, it generated a lot of comments, which is good. That's kind of what I wanted. I had done it a long time ago, so it made me think a little bit about the numbers and everything. But one of the comments was if you had the knuckle that used the 9.53 rotor, which is 242 millimeters, and then my rotor would be 10.3 inches, and what this distance from the center hole, I guess right here to the center, he gave me a drawing, and I've done it a couple different ways, and I'm getting almost 70 millimeters, which is 2.75 inches. You can do the conversion back and forth, or you can let the calipers do it. That looks about right. I'm not sure what he's. I believe that's actually a shorter distance between the center line here than on the other knuckle setup. I'm kind of a little surprised by that actually, but that's the measurement I've got as best I could. I kind of tried to make a nicer straight edge, and I'm pretty sure I'm on my center holes right here. So that's a good question, but I think the answer really is if you have the smaller brake setup, the 9.53. Again, Brian at fastbrakes.com has a lot of setups because a lot of the Civics and the CRXs and all those iterations of those cars use that size rotor. Now, the distance, the hub out, was 49.5, where I believe a Civic is 44.6. So you're talking about 5 millimeters difference. So I would say you would need a 5 millimeter spacer either going out this way or in this way. Just guessing. I don't have any Civics or CRXs to look at. And he has quite a few kits for that size because it's pretty common on those cars. I've worked on Civics before. That's the common size brake overall rotor. So I think there's a lot of options more than you think. Now, as far as what caliper you use and brake pads and stuff, that I don't really know. So, hope that helps a little bit. The second question was a good one too. Was the center register? I call that the center register of the actual caliper mounting ears, and that's a pretty common size. It's 140 millimeters, and actually I call it. And again, I'll show you close best I can. Center to center, it's about 140 millimeters, or it's going to be about 5.5 inches. So you can do the math yourself, and that's a pretty common. That's your center to center for your caliper mounting bracket down here where these holes are. So that's a pretty common. So there's a lot of caliper brackets, I should say, that would fit that size hole there. It's 14 millimeter, obviously, but that 5.5 or 140 millimeter, that's pretty common also. So that was a good question. And I think the last one was, I didn't really question myself, but I said 4 millimeter was the measurement, but I do remember it's actually a little under 4 millimeters if you really want to be precise. So this spacer bracket is actually just moving the caliper back and forth, and all you want to do is center your caliper on your rotor. So it's common sense. You can look down through there and see where you need to be. And I remember this dimension being 100 about 155 inches, and you can see I didn't do a great job. It's about 153. And that's close to 4 millimeters, but that's not quite 4 millimeters. So you may want to, like, see that it says 1.4 point, but I get it when it's tight, 3.94. I mean, that's pretty close, especially since I remember kind of roughing this. That's a rough measurement, roughing this in. So 3.86. So let's call it 4 millimeters. But you can adjust your bracket a little bit, sanding or whatever, if you really want to get it dead in the center. But the whole key is this spacing out, really, to me anyway, as far as this Integra Type R setup. There are some probably better calipers now than this single piston floating style, and that's where I was kind of hinting to in my last video. But this isn't really a bad setup. I mean, these calipers are only $40, maybe 50. I don't even know if you can buy them new. They're all remanufactured, so that's something. But it was some good questions, you know. I get the whiteboard out because there's a lot of numbers and I have to remember them all. So let's see how this works out. But yeah, so, and again, always3gs.com. Don't forget them. So this is for my 88 Honda Accord. And the big difference for the Accord is the rotor height. So from the mounting face to the end of the rotor, and the Accord, the LXI, is 51.2, and that's kind of an odd measurement. You're not going to find too many rotors like that. And that was the big deal. So the Type R was the 47, and that's where you get, obviously, you get almost 4 millimeters difference, or pretty close. So I hope that makes sense. That makes sense to me, but some other people, it doesn't. And then you're jumping up to a 282 overall height and 23 millimeter thickness, which thickness is helping with warpage and being a heat sink. Remember, a rotor's a heat sink. Now, the Integra and the Civics, as far as I know, I think they're all 44.6. I got that off of Rock Auto, and I also got that off from Brian again at Fast Break. So you can see where you're at here. So the Type R and the Civic are so close. I think that's why you'll see a lot of kits where they just put the rotor on and I don't even know if they use spacers. I mean, that's very close. So, and then the question about the smaller 9, it's actually 9.53 inches, which I believe is 242 millimeters. That height is 49.5, so it's a little bit, it's in between all these, as you can see. So you've got some wiggle room again, probably close to 5 millimeters here between the Integra Civic. So you got some, those are your numbers you're really playing with. And again, that's that rotor height. Like I said, this 5.5 center to center hole, that's a pretty much that's almost like an industry standard. I mean, as far as that type of mounting, I think you're going to see that a lot. I think you're going to see it on Porsches and whatever, VW and everybody else. So there's plenty of calipers you can choose from, fixed or floating, Brembos and all the brand new ones. So that's something to kind of consider right there. But it's this height right there that you want to kind of look. You kind of want to look for right here, obviously, and then bolt pattern. If you're going to stick with the 4x100 bolt pattern, there were some other questions about the Corrado rotor came up, and that was not a popular rotor. Those VW Corrados, I remember one when they came out, and I believe they only made like 1,500 a year. They were called a G ladder car in Europe, and it was a supercharged car, which was a big deal back in that day. But that rotor, it just wasn't popular, and it was very hard to get back then. Now it seems to pop back up again, so it's possible you could get it. And I have actually seen some people where they, and I really don't understand this, but they actually turn this section down to make this smaller to fit the rotor over. I still don't understand that when you can get the Type R rotor and it goes over just about any of these hubs, but that's a Civic thing, so maybe a Civic guy can explain that to me. But that's really all I've got about that. I hope that's pretty clear. The knuckles are interchangeable as far as I'm concerned. You can get these knuckles here for your 9.5 brake car to 10.3. I don't know if you can buy them new, but you should be able. There's plenty enough of these cars to buy them. I have tried the Integra, just a normal GS car, and they definitely bolt up. The ball joint tapers are the same, and you would have to probably check your alignment and sweep, because remember your upper control arm on this car is behind the coil spring. That's pretty unusual I don't think there's another Honda that does that. All the other Hondas have the coil spring set back and then a split upper control arm. So there's probably a good reason why this is behind there. I'd love to know from the designer why he did it this way. I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever find out. But anyway, you could swap a bunch of. You could go ahead and swap like a Civic arm if you wanted to. I'm sure it would fit. I don't know about like the spline center and all the other stuff, but you could probably mess around with that and get something that you wanted, and then just use a Civic kit. You know, buy a kit from somebody for $1,000 for a Civic, and you probably be fine. I don't think it's going to be an issue. There might be some offset issues with rim size and some other stuff. You're going to have to check all of that, obviously. But again, this idea that I had was to do either junkyard parts, off-the-shelf parts, keep your 15-inch rims, which is pretty popular on these small Honda cars. Everything pretty much bolts up. No big machining stuff besides the bracket. And that was pretty much it, you know. And then, you know, like I said, I need a new caliper or something, I just run down to the parts store and get one real quick. Turn this one in, you know, whatever. And that's where we're at with that. I'm sure there's going to be a better set. Someone's going to come up with a better setup. Again, Brian at fastbrakes.com, he's been doing this for, I guess, over 20 years now. So, you know, he knows what he's doing. He's a good guy. So, back in the day. And, yeah, well, thanks again for looking. Again, if you've got questions, I'll certainly try to help you. I'll certainly try to help anybody that's got, you know, some questions about other stuff besides just brakes, obviously. But that's pretty much where we're at now. So I'm pretty excited. I got the other side done. I kind of took this side apart to, you know, answer some questions. I'm excited about my new brake pads, so try them out and get this car ripping again. So yeah. But that's really all I've got as far as yeah, I think that covers all the questions, the data, and that's it. So. And thanks again for looking. I appreciate all the comments again, and thanks for subscribing. Everybody's been, you know, I've gained some subscribers. Appreciate that, and you know, enjoy the car and enjoy doing these videos. Really, so I want to thank you guys all. So have a good evening. Thank you for looking.